Welcome to the Soul Seeker podcast. I'm your host, Sam Kabert. I started this pod back in 2019 when I was taking my first steps on the path of remembering. And at the time, the tagline for the show was a journey of self-discovery. A year later, it became a journey of remembering. Yet what I know now is back then I was still seeking. And what I've come to know now is that it's the journey of seeking that brings us the silent, slow stillness of acceptance. And therein lies our own innate wisdom. It's my mission now to eradicate the glorification of hustle culture, as it was my drive in entrepreneurship that led to a greater whole, and that's because I was outsourcing my sovereignty rather than looking within. So let this be your invitation to take a deep breath in and remember that at any time we can shift our thoughts and our feelings to create the outer world in which we wish to live. Soul Seekers, it's time to grow. Let's go. All right, here we are back again for another episode of the Soul Seeker podcast. I'm your host, as always, Sam Kabert, sitting here with Tyler Ramsey. This is just going to be a fun conversation, and I think the energy is going to be really high. I'm going to tell you guys right now. So before we get into it, as we always do in this podcast, we'll just drop in with 3 breaths because many of you know we take over 20 to 25,000 breaths a day, yet usually 0 of those are conscious and intentional. So here's a way to just slow down. Tyler, for you, for me, for those of you in listening land, I invite you to breathe with us. Be mindful of your surroundings. Don't close your eyes if you can't do it, but you can always breathe with us. So Tyler, for you, for me, and for those of you that can, I invite you to close down your eyes, just sitting straight up, feeling your feet on the floor, and just beginning to shift from the outer world into your inner landscape. Pausing at your next natural exhale. And slowly through the nose, inhaling all the way up. At the top of the breath, through the nose, sipping in a bit more. And a big audible sigh. Again, through the nose, slow, deep breath in. Top of the breath, sipping in a bit more. And exhaling. One last one, slow, deep inhale all the way up. Top of the breath through the nose, sipping in a bit more. And sighing it out. Letting the breath return to its natural state and rhythm. Flickering the eyes open, and here we are. Tyler.
What a great way to start a podcast. My gosh.
Oh, I love that. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I'm going to do that. That's a terrific thing. Oh, my word. Already learned something.
It's so good because, we all come with different energies, and it's a great little grounding exercise for you and for me, and then for people listening as well, especially since breathwork's one of my things, Yeah, please use that. Yeah. Another good one, a lot of people don't know this. Have you heard of the acronym called WIFLE?
WIFLE? No.
Yeah, it stands for What I Feel Like Expressing. And my business coach, over 10 years ago, taught this to me. And he's every single meeting with him, he was like, and what do you feel like expressing? And what he taught me was the way you start a meeting. And this guy came from HP, corporate, all this stuff. And he says, use this to start meetings because we all come to meetings with our shit, right? And we just hold on to it. And when you're starting a meeting and other things, and there's a bunch of people in the meeting, if say I'm having a bad day, something happened before the meeting and I just seem kind of a dick or whatever, right? People will be like, what's up with Sam? Why is it? And they start to make all these judgments versus if I share my piece, be like, hey guys, I'm a little off right now. And I express something. Not only does that help with how you're seeing the other people, but improves psychological safety in the workplace. People being able to connect on a human level,
Yeah, that makes total sense. All I know is that I feel more ready even than I do if I'm running a podcast or something. I'm all of a sudden I was like, dude, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna add this. This is great.
I
So
love it.
such an easy tweak too. 3 breaths.
Yeah, man. And I know you recently had Dr. Andrew Huberman on your podcast, and
Yeah,
that's a
legend.
variation of the cyclic sigh that he talks about,
Yeah, what a legend. That
Yeah.
was that was the coolest podcast ever because I got to do it with my son.
I saw that.
And dude, it was so awesome. My son and I are getting ready to interview together this legend of horror movies. His name is David Desmalchian.
Okay.
And I've interviewed him before, and he has an amazing story of recovery. Incredible story. Incredible. But he also is in like so many horror movies that I like. And so my son and I are very excited to interview him.
Sweet. That's cool.
Yeah.
How old's your boy?
He's 9. He's about to turn 10.
That is awesome. Well, let's shift gears for a moment and just
Yeah.
introduce you to the audience. Like, I came across your work, as I was telling you, a few years ago when you did a podcast with Kyle Nicolaitis, the author of Thank
Yeah.
God for Depression, and you had your friend Blake Mycoskie, founder of Tom's Shoes, come on the show. And that's how I came across your work. And immediately, like, I was drawn to your energy. I was like, I don't know, but they just like, you're so full of life and
Yeah.
vibrant, and it's awesome. But tell us a little bit about your story, like your background and with addiction, getting sober, and just where you're at now.
Yeah, of course. I love that you say full of life, and I do feel that I am full of life, and it's because I've come through such a rough road of addiction, and I have my new superpower feels like it's gratitude. So I grew up in Oklahoma, and boy, talk about a great place to grow up, just spectacular. Couldn't Just a very wholesome environment. But when I was very young, my father shot himself in the head, and he was a veteran. He was a Marine, and he was in Vietnam. And there were a lot of things he couldn't escape, and he also was drinking. And just one night, shot himself in the brain. And it was when I was very young. It really got to me, and I grew up with him still alive. This is the crazy thing. He shot himself in the brain, but he was still alive. So I had this kind of constant reminder of this, really difficult thing. And I never really, he's incredibly handicapped as a result. Loving, and he was great. He could communicate to close friends and family, but he had such a speech impediment and physical impairments as a result that it was just this constant reminder of what could happen. It really got to me, and then I had a stepdad later on that was just incredibly abusive. So even though I look back and I have so many amazing, incredible memories of growing up, I also had a lot of fear in me, and so a lot of my life has been trying to escape that just feeling of fear that I always had. And eventually I realized that drugs and alcohol was a great way to do that, and that kind of became a real problem in my life. And just like I had tons of fun in Oklahoma despite being having a lot of difficult things, I also still had a great life. I've had so many incredible adventures. I worked in reality TV for a long time. I was a director for MTV for a show called Making the Video. It was sort of like when I was a kid, the thing that I thought was the coolest thing I could ever do would be to work for MTV. And I ended up kind of achieving that goal. And I've had a lot of like really big successes in life, things that I, as a kid, would have been very proud of. But I also had a lot of times where I cut my potential down at the knees because of drugs and alcohol. There was a period of time where I was going to be this amazing game show host for MTV, and I was offered these put in front of it, just on a silver platter, almost offered these amazing gigs, and every single time, right before taking the whatever's on the platter, I also would be like, I probably should take a bunch of drugs right now before going into this meeting. And I screwed up so many different opportunities. It blows my mind to think that the choices that I made were ever so off that I would go into a chance of a lifetime meeting, chance of a lifetime, and right before decide this is going to go way better if I take a mountain of Adderall or take a there's this like weightlifting drug called Xenadrine that would just make me fucking nuts. And I would be like, I should probably take that before I go in. I mean, just, or I'll smoke so much pot that I'm completely paranoid. Dude, I had so many fucking just bad choices. But I also had so many huge victories. There was a period of time where I spent a whole year of my life as a host on this internet channel, and I was an extreme sports host, and I would get to like jump out of planes or do something killer every week, like really killer, or I would go interview like some kind of huge celebrity in like an exotic location, and I just had like the time of my life. And it was only because I went to a Chemical Brother. I love the Chemical Brothers, by the way. I went to a Chemical Brothers concert and just was taking mountains of ecstasy and made friends with this random CEO of a company. And, that ended up being like an amazing year of my life. And I started telling myself that like sometimes they're bad, but a lot of times drugs are really good for me. And I'm right now in my studio. This is just my podcast studio. And this podcast studio is inside of a gigantic space. It's all covered with art. 80% of it was created through mountains of Adderall. Actually, at this point, it's like 50%. I've sold pieces for like 6 figures that were just all Adderall. And it was, so anyway, for the longest time, I was lying to myself, thinking I can't do anything without drugs. I can't do anything with. I'm so fun with alcohol. I'm so fun with drugs, and it's just the only thing it ever did was squash fear. It's all it ever did, and that would really only last first couple drinks or the first hit of something, and then it would compound that fear a million times. Anyway, I finally, after a long time, got sober, and I had to really a few things had to take place. One was I had a really amazing experience with ayahuasca that all of a sudden I realized that I'll just say that I ended up loving myself 10% more than I did before I got into it. It was really amazing. It was an incredible experience. I feel I was able to change some of the faulty code in my head permanently. Yeah. I still can't believe it. I won't ever do it again, but I'm really excited and grateful that I got a chance to do it this time because it made a huge difference. I also went to this place called the Hoffman Process. Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard that. I might have heard you talk about it.
The Hoffman Process is this sort of 9-day retreat where you kind of ditch some of the baggage that you've been carrying since you were a kid. It's incredibly profound. And after 9 days of that, I also was able to permanently love myself, let's say 10% more. And I also managed to permanently dislodge this really deep fear that I had that I was just going to kill myself. I've always, for the longest time, I thought my destiny was that that I was supposed to live kind of a real wild life, enough maybe for two people, so I could kind of make up for things my father didn't get to do. And then at a very young age, I thought for certain I would kill myself. And it's such a dumb thing to have in my head and such a dumb fear. And in this place, the Hoffman process got it out of me. And I think that you would love it. It's a lot of breath work, a lot of meditation, and also a lot of exercises that sort of like help you take some time to think about things that you kind of picked up from childhood, maybe that you're not so interested in carrying anymore. So there were those two things. And then I had this wild experience where I was working on the show Survivor, just this incredible shit show of an experience. They filmed this. I used to be a producer on the show, and they were filming the show in Africa, Gabon. I'd worked on 3 other seasons. One was in the Amazon. We were living in trees. It's an incredible experience. Just amazing. I loved working on the show so much. Another was in the Marquesas Island, just like so exotic and cool. But this one season was in Africa. And I remember, and I had actually kind of put together a little bit of time where I had stopped drinking. And sure, the second I got on the airplane, I thought, maybe I don't have a drinking problem in Africa. Like, that's probably a thing. And just kind of went on a little bit of a bender, met my wife, who was a contestant on the show, and she looked so beautiful. And it was such a wonderful, exotic location and experience and adventure. And I just fell in love with her. And the one rule that they give you on that show is like, if you're working on the show, do not fall in love with the people on the show. And I got caught. And it was a really a traumatic thing for me, because I love the people that I worked with, and I was kind of shamed. It was a real shaming thing that I was, fired. And instead of saying, I've been caught doing this, I think I should accept all responsibility and repercussion. I didn't do that. And I had the most childish reaction. And it didn't help that I was really kind of on a real bender by this point. But I go, you know what? I'm just going to go disappear into the jungle. I'm gonna act like a child and who thinks I'm going to run away, and that'll show them. And I did. I would disappear. I ran off into this jungle, and production was technically responsible for me. And they ended up having to send a mercenary. Wow. To fly a mercenary out. They ended up sending a mercenary and a psychologist or psychiatrist to come find me and sort of figure me out. I was like, anyway, this is going to sound so silly, but once that happened, I thought to myself, I'm not going to find a much better story to get sober than this. And I went directly to a rehab. I went directly to rehab for the first time. And, I wish I could say it was the last time I had been, but it was sort of it was the beginning of getting sober. It was the beginning of getting sober. And yeah, those things. And the final thing I should say before boy, I've really been chatty. The final thing is, I had a really incredible experience with God at this last rehab place that I went to. And I've been to rehab 3 times, and first one was right after Survivor. It is amazing. We would go jet skiing during the day. It couldn't have been less productive, but it was amazing. Second place was Betty Ford, which was in Palm Desert. Honestly, it should have worked. That is an incredible program. But when I went into it, I went into it with the attitude that I was going to stop some things, but not stop all things. For me, that doesn't really work out. And then finally, I went to the roughest place of all, which is this place known as the Los Angeles Dream Center. And I'll just say that I was in a bunk bed, 3 deep. And below me was a male prostitute who called himself Princess Skittles, and who had just had the shit kicked out of him by some dudes that had robbed him. He was in a rough spot. And then below him was this gang banger, toughest gang banger I've ever met, who was coming down from meth. And it was just a rough environment. And someone put their hand on my head, let's say like the RA or whatever they're called. And he goes, "Hey man, I'm feeling something. I feel like you've never really forgiven yourself. And I don't think you can really have a healing unless you do that." And I was like, "Dude, don't be touching me." And then something happened and I forgave myself. And I was like, "Man, I'm worth it. How about if I just like take care of myself from here on out?" It was wonderful. And I developed this great relationship with God, and I got this best friend, Jesus, who's the dude that forgives. And I love the guy that forgives.
That's beautiful, brother. Thank you for sharing. There's so much that you mentioned. I was taking some notes. I'm just gonna rattle off a few things that really stood out to me, and we'll see where that takes us. Well, which, by the way, the Hoffman process, would love to learn more. I'll look it up and put it in the show notes for you guys. And if you know anyone there,
it's amazing.
To interview.
It's amazing.
Yeah, cool. So you guys can go to the show notes, a Hoffman process. One thing that really stood out to me was this theme of subconscious self-sabotage. It sounds like subconscious, like, because you weren't intentionally being like, "Let me go mess this job or gig up," whatever, right? It was subconscious. Yeah.
It seemed like it was a subconscious thing. There would be moments where I would think to myself, this might be a horrible idea. And then I just like, "No, it's a great idea. I'm going to get a real pump for this interview if I take these weird weightlifting drugs."
Yeah, what got me into work with the unconscious or the subconscious, same thing, was seeing the subconscious self-sabotage within myself. And I have kind of a similar story of like, after experiencing success and goals, a different arena and smaller arena probably than you, I thought to myself, like, now what? I thought I'd feel different, and I realized I had this programming of when I achieve ABC, I will feel XYZ, which just kept me like a hamster on a wheel,
Yeah. Doesn't work that way, does it?
No. And we'll get to the self-sabotage stuff, but since we're here now, like, you've lived a lot of life in a lot of different kinds of ways. And I saw something too on your Instagram. You were working with Britney Spears as well. And I'm sure the list goes on and on and on. Like, what did it feel like for you specifically after like living your dream life or achieving the success, the goals? What did that feel like?
That's a great question. I asked a friend, I have a friend, Robert Downey Jr., and I asked him a question. He had just won an Oscar. Or maybe it just like multiple, I can't remember, it was his second Oscar or something like that, third, something like that. He had just won a big award. And I asked him, I go, do you feel different? How do you feel? Oh yeah, it was his first actually. How do you feel? Do you feel different? And he goes, "It's kind of like a new truck." And he's like, it hits, it does hit, but then soon it's not a new truck anymore. And there's so many victories that I've had, and for me, kind of one of the very biggest moments was when I realized that I was doing what I really thought was the coolest possible gig as a kid. And it was when I became a director for a show on MTV called Making the Video. And that was as cool as it gets. I was at the time. Britney Spears was such a huge star, and I was working with her. I worked on this music video with Ricky Martin, and it was in the Bahamas, and and I was surrounded by like 50 of the most beautiful people I'd ever seen ever, and I had like a headset on, and they all could tell, oh, that guy's with MTV, and it was just like it was as much ego as I could have. And by the second day, all the juice was gone. Anything that was just wonderful about that, I had already started to compare myself to things around me that I wasn't as good at, or it was like a day. It was, but I won't say that it doesn't hit for a moment, but there is something that it's like, I don't know that there's a goal out there that sits forever. Over time, because I have reached, I have an art career that I'm so incredibly lucky.
You just had something in the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas that you took out after like 6 years of it being in there, right? Something along those lines.
Yeah, an amazing opportunity. I was, the dopest place in Las Vegas, and I had a giant installation with them, and it was I had a killer payday, and all. It's like, that also doesn't last forever. I mean, it's like the high of that doesn't last forever, and in no way do I it's like that. I would have always thought, man, I'll get to a point where I think I've arrived. It's like, I mean, art is impossible unfortunately, like, oh, what does arriving mean? Because it's way below all these other. The problem with art is you don't just compare yourself to a living artist. It's like, listen, there's no living artist that probably doesn't go, well, I mean, Jackson Pollock has done this, or, I mean, it just is a losing game.
Yeah.
So you have to love making art there, because you'll never get to a place where you're like, nailed it. It just won't happen. It might for 1 second, but it's not gonna last.
Well, you said, yeah, it's not gonna last, and you said it really well about like the high, because the dopamine that comes with achieving these goals and success, it's fleeting, and then we get on that hamster wheel seeking again. That's why, at least for me, the lesson of when I achieve ABC, I will feel XYZ, and seeing how that's how I was operating on a subconscious level was everything, Hey, it's Sam. Can I share something real quick that I think might actually help you? If you've ever felt overwhelmed by your emotions, like you're doing all the right things, yet you still feel off, it's not because you're broken. Most of us were never taught how to feel in a way that actually helps us heal. That's why I created Breath Club, a free community where I guide weekly breathwork sessions to help you regulate your nervous system, process emotions, and return to clarity. We use something called the 90-second reset, a simple, science-backed practice that shows how fast emotions shift when you allow yourself to feel them fully. You'll get access to live calls, a community, and on-demand breathwork exercises to reset anytime. No pressure, just an invitation to feel safe in your body again. Links in the show notes if you want to join us. Yeah.
When I achieve A, B, and C, I will feel X, Y, and Z. And just doesn't work that. You'll have a moment where you'll be very excited, but that moment will so quickly go away. And if you've been depending, if you've thought my happiness is gonna depend on that moment kind of staying with me, oh man, you're in trouble.
Here's another good one for you and for all of you guys listening too. This one melted my mind. I was in Costa Rica in the fall of 2021 for a yoga teacher training. And I had no idea why I was there. It was just like felt called to go to it. And then I ended up teaching yoga. But one day in this outdoor yoga shala, the studio overlooking the ocean in Nasara. So it's one of the blue zones in the world.
Nasara. Love it.
Right? Yeah, me too. The Bodhi tree. You probably know the Bodhi tree.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's where I did my yoga teacher training. So shout out
Wow.
to Dakota Shea and his wife Bridget. But Dakota was teaching this session where we're literally looking over the blue ocean. We're nestled in the jungle. You could hear the barking of the geckos and the howling of the monkeys, all of it, right? So Dakota, our instructor, he says to name your ultimate potential is to limit your ultimate potential. Now, I'll say that again. To name your ultimate potential is to limit. So all of a sudden, he kept talking, but I just had like all these flashes in my life when I had named my ultimate potential. It's like, oh my God, I see it now, right? So ultimate potential, like some of the things you mentioned, the show you were on, and whether it was Survivor or your artwork doing so well, all of these things, like unconsciously, we're naming it as our ultimate potential, right?
Yeah. I want to bang this girl. I want,
Yeah.
I want to, I have this one buddy that I just, every now and then, he says all the time, dude, I just want to get, I'm like, I just want to get a yacht. I just want enough money for a yacht. And I'm like, dude, don't, with all due respect, you have to know how dumb that is. Like, you want, the second you get this yacht, you're going to realize, first of all, owning a boat sucks. And I'm like, dude, what are you, how are you, have you ever read Siddhartha? How are you on step one of enlightenment? I'm like, Jesus, dude. Everyone knows this. I mean, but all the cliche things to say, like, once I get this big yacht, dude, it's wild. And sometimes you think it does, it's like we're now in this society. It's like no one's talking about these long, lifelong corporate jobs and moving up ladders anymore. Now I feel the attitude is like, just get a business, get something going and hustle. And I think that everyone needs fuel for this hustle. Everyone needs fuel. And a lot of times this like fake, or not this fake, but this faulty goal. I'm going to get this. At least it causes a hustle. But you've brought up my great friend, Blake Mykoski. Mm-hmm. He is a terrific example. I mean, he thought that once he started a company and just made a bitch load of money, that he was going to be happy. And the second this money hit his account and he sold his company, he went into the darkest depression I've ever seen. And it was just awful. And they thought, oh man, it's just, I've never seen such a concrete, specific example of someone getting everything that they'd worked so hard for and then realizing that wasn't going to make them happy. And he came through this great conclusion that his deal, and he's convinced it's everyone's deal, is that we all have this core wound where it's like we're not enough.
Yep.
And there's different reasons why we feel like we're not enough. I've kind of come to realize that I felt like I wasn't enough because I was supposed to kind of live such a giant life, not just for me, but for my father. And so I can really relate to this thing where he's like, I'm wearing a bracelet. I'm wearing a bracelet that says enough. And he's like, dude, and he told me, he goes, I'm going to make this company. I'm going to give out these bracelets and say, let people know that they're enough, and like really kind of let people dwell on this. It didn't hit with me right away. And over time, I'm like, geez, we all have something that's like really deep that's telling us we're not enough. And when I sat with Huberman, he even made a point. He goes, a lot of us have this salve that we put on this wound, and that kind of works maybe for a second. And that could be alcohol. It could be overwork. like it could be just like, could even be exercises. Like, but what happens is whatever the salve is that you put over this, that could be what kills you. It's like, dude, that is so deep. And for me, that was
I'm
correct.
chomping at the bits. You mind if I jump in?
Please, 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 please.
There's so many things you just said that I was like, yes, 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 yes. And I joke, like, because I'm in breath work and things like that. I teach people the ninja breath, but I don't always do that myself. Like right now, I wasn't. But when we're thinking about what we're going to say next, and we're
Yeah.
just lost in that. So instead of doing the cyclic sigh we did before, it's just a subtle inhale all the way up, a subtle inhale at the top, and then a subtle exhale through the nose versus the mouth. And I call it ninja because you're being stealthy, but you're
Ooh.
retraining your nervous system to breathe unconsciously in a way to get you into rest and digest. And it also helps with all those bouncing thoughts so you can be more present. Anyways, I was not just doing that right now, but that is something that I do a lot that's really helpful. Anyways, you just had me, I'll take responsibility. I had myself really excited listening to you. And one of the things that I wanted to share is I also believe that the core wound of especially Western society is feeling unworthy. And after coming to that realization myself, I came across Adyashanti's book, Healing the Core Wound of Unworthiness. Have you heard about that?
No. Huh.
All right, guys, I'll put it in the show notes so you guys can all check it out, and I'll send it to you, Tyler, after this. I highly recommend listening to it on Audible. Adyashanti is by far my favorite spiritual teacher, and he's just got this very zen, grounded, hypnotic voice that just like
Cool.
draws you in. Yeah. So there's that. And then one of the things you mentioned with Huberman, I call it Band-Aid fixes versus getting to the root. One thing that I've been really passionate, I'd love to hear your take on this, is emotional fitness over mental health. Because have you heard of the 90-second rule?
No.
It's neuroscience, and not barely anyone knows about it yet. Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, who's a neuroanatomist and neuroscientist, who you should get on your podcast. She's been on Diary of a CEO. She's been on Oprah, named Time's Most 100 People. Anyways,
Wow.
she said on the TED stage, not TEDx, TED stage in 2008, the 90-second rule. Every single time you have a thought, that sends a signal to the body, which creates a feeling. That feeling will move through your body in less than 90 seconds if you allow yourself to feel it. So on an unconscious level, what's happening is most of us don't feel safe in our body to feel emotions, to your point of like getting into drugs, alcohol addiction, all the things. We want a numbing agent. So instead of feeling that emotion, it gets sent back up to the mind, and we start ruminating in negative feedback loops. So mainstream society says we're all caught in our head. We have a mental health crisis. Which the deeper truth, and why I believe the next wave is emotional health, or what I call emotional fitness, because when you start to utilize practices that help you to get into your body, the thoughts clear out naturally.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm going to look her up.
Yeah. So
that's amazing. I think that I would almost add something to that.
Please.
Which is because I thought the point you were going to make is that something happens, and if you allow yourself to not respond to it for 90 seconds, you're going to be better off. Because the group of people that I'm around so often, they have an issue where it's like something will happen and they want to react instantly, and it's like, I thought you were referencing the kind of a pause that is so helpful to take before you react to something.
Okay. So going to that, in my recent book, I'll send you a copy. It's called Overcome the Overwhelm. I share the breath method, and it's a way to actually utilize the 90-second rule. I just I give keynotes, and I just got back from one in Kansas City. And after hearing your podcast with Blake, because when I started my first business in 2011, that was also the year that he published Start Something That Matters, his book. And I read that when I was 23 years old or 22, starting my first business, and it was such a massive
No
inspiration.
way.
Yeah, so I've
Cool.
always been a huge fan of his, but then it just like, things happen, social media or whatever, just not on the feed, forget, whatever. And then somehow that podcast you did came back up in 2023 or something when
Yeah.
I was going through one of the hardest times in my life. And I heard him share on your podcast everything you just shared. So now in my keynotes, my opening segment where I share the 90-second rule and I share the breath method, I kick off the keynote by telling his story.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to tell him this. Killer.
Yeah, it's so I'm getting chills right now. It's so inspiring.
I'm
And
gonna have to connect you guys. That's awesome. It's a great
I would
story.
appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, when I heard your podcast with him, I was processing one of the hardest things in my life. I was seeing this woman and I was looking at rings. Her daughter was, beginning to call me daddy. She didn't have a dad. And I said, hey, when mommy and I get married, we'll have like a daddy daughter ceremony. She was like 6, right? And long story short, the woman I was dating found out she was pregnant. Then she bounced. She blocked me everywhere. Long story short, I didn't meet my son until he was 15 months. Now we have a great co parenting relationship. It's got a happy ending. But when I came across the podcast you did, thank God for depression, it was when I was
Yeah.
in the thick of all that. After I'd already had my spiritual awakening and thought like, oh, I think I have things figured out a little bit, right? So that's when I developed the breath method, which when I want to make this about you, not about me. So the breath method, very simply in those 90 seconds, pause to breathe, regulate your nervous system. That's the first theme. The
Yeah.
second theme is feel. This is the shadow work. Carl Jung said to make the unconscious conscious. So rather than putting a band-aid on what's coming up, we're going to say, hey, what's the lesson? What am I learning here? That's what the second theme's about. 3 is think intentionally. So now by doing the shadow work, we've earned the right to invoke the power of positive thinking. And okay, what is one positive thing I know to be true about myself or I'm learning from this? And what action, habit, or behavior will I take? So that's how I utilize the 90-second rule. You can see why I'm so amped up on everything you shared. One more thing I want to say, and then I'll turn it back over to you. I am also a survivor of suicide. I've told that story many a times. I'm not going to now. And most recently, again, last year, my son's mom's uncle, who she was really close to, he, trigger warning for everyone, but we've already gone here. He actually shot himself in the face as well, as similar to
Oh,
he took his life. And here's the interesting thing, Tyler. The guy had more money than he knew what to do with. He was living next to one of the founders of a massive tech company everyone knows. He was buying a Batmobile, all like ridiculous, right? And
real.
I think I heard you say like caught between two worlds, kind of like with your dad. But with this specific gentleman that we lost, what I saw in him was he was caught in two worlds of materialistic, keeping up with the Joneses fast-paced lifestyle,
Yeah.
3D, and another side of him being called to like meditation and mindfulness, but then feeling like ridiculed by the other side. So it's really inspiring to see
Wow.
the work that you're doing, that your homie Blake is doing, because I mean I'm right here walking right alongside you guys. I think it's
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. Once I get the Batmobile, I'll be happy.
Yeah, yeah. It's good to have comedy too, but yeah, I
Of
mean
course.
that is a core wound. So, in terms of like the success, then what? Like, what's your approach now? Like, what are the things that you're working on and really inspired about, and how do you not fall into the trap of when I have this thing, then I'll be XYZ?
Yeah. I have a great example of this. I've started, over time, I've developed a pretty healthy relationship with art. Um, I'm pretty comfortable with the fact that there is a lot more money that could be made. And just because I'm not making it, I don't hate myself. And I'm pretty comfortable with the fact that there are a lot of artists alive that are crushing it harder than I am. And that doesn't cause me to hate myself. I do have stings every now and then. But for the most part, it took me, 20 years, but I've developed a decently healthy relationship with it. And I'm very proud of what I've accomplished. And that for me has been a journey to get to that place. And it required me to absorb the fact that I'm doing something that I love. And that is the gift I get every day. So I actually sit with that and I get excited about it.
Okay.
Yeah. I get there are times where I say that, it doesn't do anything, but like a lot of times I sit with that, I get excited about it, and it makes me feel grateful. Grateful, the idea of gratitude, that is my superpower. So now I've started this podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I realized that I had to do that all again, because as you know, there are a zillion podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
You said 300 episodes?
Yeah, at this point, yeah.
Yeah. We're in the top 1%.
Nice.
You're in the top 1%. I'm in the top 1%.
Oh.
If you do more than, I think, 10, you're heads and shoulders above. Okay, so one thing you can do is go, and it is something to be proud of, but as long as that doesn't lead to the next step, which is, all right, let me look at all of the podcasts that are doing better than me,
yeah,
or all the
right,
and then next thing you know, you're stepping on your own dick. So I'm having to do that again with being a podcaster. And it doesn't, all of the skills of this artist thing doesn't just transfer immediately. So it's new work that I'm having to do. And I have to remind myself that a productive fuel is not telling myself that I'm a loser because I'm below this, and this. That is fuel and will make me work harder, but ultimately it's not productive. It's not efficient fuel. It's not really helpful. So that I try to tell myself when I start talking shit to myself about what I'm not doing compared to others, I go, it's true. There are other people that are doing better than you. And maybe you can use that to get inspired by things that you can accomplish. But this isn't fuel. Don't stop lying to yourself. So I have to have that conversation. I even like two months ago, I started doing stand-up comedy, and I'm like, oh, this is another impossible mountain to climb. Great.
Man, I could talk with you forever. I saw have you heard that movie Is This Thing On?
Oh, I was dying to see it. Is it good?
It's amazing. I watched it on the plane ride home from a trip a few days ago, and literally, I've never done stand-up. It's not entirely true, but I don't consider myself funny. I haven't done an open mic. I did a live podcast at the Improv like 10 years ago or something, and it wasn't really like stand-up, but anyways, so now this morning I spent like an hour or two searching open mics near me, because after seeing that movie, so many synchronicities here, but I was like feeling inspired to do stand-up, so that's funny.
Oh wow. There's a place in LA that I just went that has open mics. It's an amazing room. I'm so excited about it, and it's added like a real delight to my life. I'm like very excited about it.
Okay,
and I have no expectation. The great thing is I think it's because I've had several careers by now that I'm just like, dude, I don't know what will happen to this. I'm not going to be a dummy and tell myself I need to be performing, doing this or this. And I also am not dumb enough to think now I need to compare myself with Dave Chappelle. I'm just gonna have fun with it.
I so agree with that. I love trying different things. Like I got into painting a few years ago, and
Cool.
I'm not good or anything like that, but it was like rediscovering a creative expression, guitar, drum, painting, even cooking, all these different things.
Yeah.
And in the spirit of you just having Huberman on your podcast, which by the way, guys, go to the show notes, check out Tyler's podcast, Punk Rock Sober. And in the spirit of having Huberman, it's something he said a year or so ago really changed the way I looked at getting out of your comfort zone. He talked about the mid-cingulate anterior cortex within the brain, which is the part of the brain that develops when we quote unquote do hard things. It builds resilience under pressure moments. And I'm curious, in terms of everything that we've been talking about, like how much do you find doing difficult things helps you for your mental, emotional health and spirituality connection to God?
Dude, it's the one thing that makes me turned on by me. If I do something that's hard, or I step outside of my comfort zone for a minute, I don't know how else to say it. It's like it's the best way I can like flirt with myself, or it's like if I it's the only thing that moves the needle that makes me sort of excited to be me. Is when I do something that's difficult, when I learn a new skill, when I try something that's new, and most of all, when I try something that's scary. It makes me love myself more. It makes me I turn myself on and think, man, cool, dude. Way to go.
Yeah. It
makes me a better dad. It makes me a better dad. It makes me feel like it's the only thing that I think, oh man, my kids are lucky to have this guy that does things that are hard or scary, or think like that. Yeah.
I think it's the best thing you can do for yourself. I did this challenge. I'm on day 63 of 66 days. It's of embodiment. And I started January 3rd, but I restarted a couple of times. And the main focus of the challenge is doing one hard thing a day, realizing that some days the hard thing's going to be really hard, and other days it's going to be meeting yourself where you're at. And you're like, hey, this is out of my comfort zone for where I'm at right now.
Right.
Giving yourself grace. I think that's important. Anyways, after doing this just for like 2 weeks, maybe it was 3 weeks at the time, I had this epiphany of being like, man, anyone that is experiencing suicidal ideation should just do this alone, of doing one hard thing that's out of your comfort zone. I truly think that can get someone to the other side.
Yeah, no, it does. But then the problem is you try to tell someone that's real depressed that they should go do an open mic.
Well, it does. They have to decide what it is. It could be a cold plunge.
You know what I mean? Sometimes talk about it is literally pulling teeth trying to get someone who's depressed to do something that will help them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from an NLP perspective, this is secondary gain. Like what you mentioned before, like that one rehab center should have worked and you go, I just wasn't ready. Anytime I'm doing a technique with a client or teaching and training people, it's like, we have to ask our unconscious mind, is it all right with my unconscious mind for me to make this change and become consciously aware of it? Because I've facilitated sessions for clients where they thought they wanted to release something. I ask that question and then they say no. And then that right there is the light bulb moment for them to see how their conscious mind isn't giving their unconscious mind the permission, because the conscious mind's the goal.
That's amazing.
An unconscious goal getter. Anyway.
That's really amazing. Dude, I can't wait to learn more about what you're doing. You're involved in some really killer stuff.
You too. Which, by the way, we should do a 2.0. I have down a start here, fatherhood and God, maybe for the next time we hit those two topics.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll be so excited about that. I mean, I could go on and on about fatherhood and on about God. Specific, I mean, as I should say, especially God, because that for me is on top of everything else. Mm-hmm. And I'm so excited about this ride that I'm on right now that I just like, man, I look up and I'm like, whatever this is, dude, cool.
I love it. I love it
So
much.
groovy. Man.
It's so good. I love your energy, Tyler. Everyone connect with Tyler. You can find it in the show notes, all the ways to connect with him online, social media, the podcast, all the things. And the things we mentioned, like the Hoffman process, Adyashanti's Audible of the core, healing the core wound of unworthiness. Tyler, this has been awesome. We'll talk offline, have you back on the pod.
Great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll do a swap. Anyone, my podcast, Punk Rock Sober, if you go by, just subscribe. And also my homeboys, my dude, you too. The more it's the easiest thing someone could do is subscribe. And I'm all of a sudden, I'm like, dude, sometimes I'll have so many viewers and I'm like, dude, how I just need some of those to push subscribe. My God, dude, rock on. Have a great day. You made my day, brother.
Thanks,
Take
Tyler.
you later.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Oh.